Great. Well, as online education always goes, there's always technical difficulties. That's okay. I'll give you the brief rundown, and I'm really going to show you all the features of it anyways. Good to know. You can watch that video later. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is you can take a video, and as the students watch it, on the side, you'll end up having a pop-up that can ask questions. You can do voiceovers on your video. You can record over the whole video or just put in a little comment. You can also have students respond to questions. So I think it's a really cool tool. And again, I'm going to show you all of those features. So we'll go from there. Maybe. Now that my computer. All right. Oh, that's not fun. Why is it? That moment when you knew you should have restarted your computer before you started. Okay. So signing up is super easy. The first thing you do is you go to edpuzzle.com. You're going to click sign up. And of course, you will choose that you are a teacher. The next thing that you're going to do is sign in with Google. If you decide later to connect this to Google Classroom, it'll be a lot easier if you're just signing in directly with your Google account. And then, of course, also just one less password to remember. You choose what account and you give permissions through Google and you accept their terms and you can go ahead and create an account. The last step, you need to verify your email address. So you won't be able to connect to Google Classroom and do other things like that until you've gone back in to your Gmail and approved it. So really easy to sign up, 6 quick little steps. I'm going to show you how to create classes. There are a couple different ways. So once you're in your EdPuzzle, you would go to My Classes and you're going to click Add a New Class. Pretty straightforward. You can decide here whether you would like to do it manually or if you want to sync with Google Classroom. It's entirely up to you, whatever makes sense and wherever your students are already filled in. Of course, if you've already have all your students in Google Classroom or you've connected Synergy in Google Classroom, this is a great way to just easily add all of your students. And then the next thing that's going to pop up is going to be this little warning or the ask about whether or not your students are old enough. So if you have collected your permission slips, the form from your parents, you can go ahead and click yes. If your students are 8th grade or older, then you can click no because it actually says that your students are old enough that they don't need that verification parent consent. Okay. All right. Then you can go ahead and decide if you want to connect with Google Classroom. You can decide that, you can select that, and then you can pick which Google classes you would like to connect. So you can choose, you can do one of them or all of them, and then click import classes. All right, this is my favorite part. There's so much awesome content out there. It's really exciting. So when you're in your EdPuzzle, you can go to My Content, and then in the top right corner, you'll see Add Content, and you can kind of decide. So you can create a video, you can upload a video, you can have student projects or do a new folder. So if you have been doing like screencastifies or things like that, and you want to make sure that your students are actually watching them, or you want to check in to make sure that they understand when you gave them directions, you can actually drop a video, you can upload a video here. When you click upload a video, it's super easy. It just says to choose the file, and you can go ahead and pick which one goes where. You can also remix videos. There's a ton of different ways of using content that's already on there. And I'm going to talk about each of those in a second, actually. So one of the things that you can do on the left-hand side, there is popular channels. So there are a ton of different resources that have already been posted or added. You might already be using some of these: YouTube, Khan Academy, Nat Geo, all these different things. All these videos are already in here, easily ready to use. You can also select curriculum on the top right-hand side of the content page, and there you're going to see different content that is by, you can choose elementary, middle, or high school, and you can actually see content by your subject, so things that have already been sort of vetted and explained, sorry, not explained, approved. And then there's also ways you can actually look at, so I teach at Willie Brown, you can see that I can actually go in and see what other teachers at my school are using. It's gonna be really powerful, especially if multiple people are trying to use the same video, things like this. I see a question about, is it about consent? Is that what we're doing? Awesome. So on, sorry, Jessica, I should have given you a set of slides. On this slide, this document, URL. This document is from DOT that'll explain how to get a consent even though we're not at school. So it's just a Google form. There's directions on how to use the Google form so that you can send it to your families. I know for some people, getting responses from families, especially in this time, can be definitely challenging. Yeah. All right. So obviously, word to the wise, always preview an entire video before assigning to students. Sometimes, something looks really good and then they go off on some left turn that you had no idea and didn't necessarily want to share with your students. So make sure that you're previewing the entire video. So as far as finding videos go, when you're going through and you found a video that you think looks great, you're excited to use it, you can actually see they'll have like a to-do, and on the right-hand side, this is going to be all the different things that have been inserted into this video. And then you have a few options of what you can do with this video. So the first one is edit. That's where you're going to sort of take it and remix it. You can put your own voiceover. You can change the questions. You can reword things. All of that is going to be under your edit menu. The next one is copy. I was a little confused by copy, so I had to look it up. I was like, wait, what is this for? So copy is essentially if you were going through and you were just kind of looking and skimming for a bunch of different videos, you can click copy and it'll drop it into my content. And of course you can edit it later, but that way if you were just curating a bunch of resources, you can make copies and you don't have to go in, edit and save each one. You'll just drop it right back in your content so that you can find it later. Assign, maybe you found something that you love, or maybe you've already edited and you're ready to share with your students. You can click assign and we'll go through what each of those, the edit and assign looks like in a minute. And then share is, of course, you found an amazing resource, you want to send it to a colleague. It's just a link so that they can also find it and come back to this menu to make that choice. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is edit assignments. I will give you the honest truth. This GIF that I put in here is it's a lot, so sorry for that one. So essentially, this is what it looks like. You can kind of see this is the cut section of editing. So you can decide if you want to cut off the front half of the video or the back half. At this time, and people are always asking for this feature, you could not cut out the middle, but in theory, you could take the first half of a movie and then skip the part you didn't want and put the second half and make it as 2 separate assignments. So it's super easy. You can see here, I'm basically just in this GIF, just dragging to where I want to cut off. You can hit play, you can figure out what you want, what you don't want. It's just a really easy feature to cut down content. The next one is for editing, when we're editing videos, is to do a voiceover. And so this is where you might be, the video is still playing, it's going to cut out the audio of the video, and you can say like, hi, how's it going? This is Miss Maynard. I'm here to, I'm telling you, and kind of go over directions or things that they need to understand. One of my favorite things is when I've assigned EdPuzzles to students is they all kind of stop at that first part where they hear my voice and they look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, you're in this, because it feels like such a nice platform, and then suddenly it's something very personal and they know that I'm recording it for them. So you don't have to put a voiceover in, but I think it's a nice feature. It just kind of helps with students to sort of understand. You can also give directions, like I said, for students that need to hear it audioly. That's a great question. Karen, you can use anything on YouTube. There might be a few things that are, I think that our filters don't filter anything out. So yeah, anything on YouTube, good to go. But they have nicely curated ones, which is great. The first question that you can enter is a multiple choice question. So again, you're here on this third one where you're entering questions. You have your first box, which is your question. And then each of the other ones are the different multiple choice answers. You can have as many as you want. You can just add more at the end. The one big thing to make sure that you do, because this does self-grade for you, is you really want to make sure that you are clicking and making sure that the green X is next to the correct answer. I will tell you right now, you can have multiple answers, but I would really caution students often don't necessarily understand that part. So either do a voiceover or make sure you write in the question, like choose 3 or something like that, because they will miss it if they don't pick all of the right answers. So just food for thought. The next one is the open-ended question. Obviously, we know that asking open-ended questions, we can get deeper understanding from students. We can have them sort of voice things better. But I do want to give one thing to think about, which is when the students have submitted their work, they actually see, you can see down here at the bottom, I had 2 multiple choice questions and then an open-ended question. It says 2 out of 3 here. And some of your students who really like to know exactly what their grade is the second that they finish an assignment are going to see that 2 out of 3 and think they missed something. So really what it says down below is to be graded. It's not actually saying that they missed that question. It's just saying that the last one was open-ended and your teacher needs to go in and grade it. Again, it's not a big deal, but you know your students. There are some students that will be very upset thinking that they did not get 100% on this grade. So just something to think about with the open-ended ones, maybe giving your students some warning up front so that they understand that until you've graded it, they're not necessarily, there's no way they can get 100%. And then the last one, I don't know, it's on questions, but it's really a note. So I would use this sort of interchangeably with the voiceover. The one difference is this is going to actually pause the video and have like a little pop-up note that's going to show them, you know, oh, hey, like for example, I said, you know, pay attention to what the core is made of, things like this. So it essentially stops the video, and it's just a great way to communicate with kids. Like, I need you to pay attention to this. Or you could ask, like, before, pause and insert a note before you ask a question and say, hey, I'm going to ask you this question. If you don't know the answer, there's a rewatch button, and they can just click rewatch and watch that last section again. So it's just a cool way to communicate with your students about what they need to know. It's a quick little, maybe not check for understanding, but just like stop and think and listen. All right. One of my favorite things for people that love Google is all saved automatically. So as you're making those changes, it's going to be updating and saving. And when you're done, you just click finish. Super easy. All right. Are there any other big questions about content? Did we get all those? Nope. Okay.
Not seeing any other questions right now.
Great. All right. We will keep going. So once you've made your amazing lesson, you have all this great content, you're ready to get feedback from your students, then you're going to want to assign a lesson. And so it's pretty straightforward. Once you have your assignment, once you have the video all edited and ready to go, you'll go in and you'll click assign. You can choose which classes you'd like to put it to. They do not have to be connected to Google Classroom, but you can see with the little circle that when they are. There's a couple things that I will mention as far as the settings go. Let's see. The first one is it's a little small. There's stuff they use a gray font. It's like super hard to see. I'm sorry about that, you guys. So the first one is to prevent skipping. You don't have to do that, but I like to be able to see that my students have watched all the way through. You can actually, EdPuzzle, when you leave that window, it'll actually, like if you open up another window and they think they're gonna play some video game in another one, it actually won't play. If you have 2 windows overlapped, it will, but at least it's not like completely leaving the window. So you can click prevent skipping. And then you can also turn on the captions. I always like to do that. The students can turn them on individually. At the moment, they're only English. So it's up to you if you want the captions on. I always think that's a nice feature. And then the last one is share on Google Classroom. And so if you select that third one on the bottom right, it's essentially going to create it as an assignment and drop it straight into whatever Google Classroom you want. So that's it, that's assigning. And then the next part we're going to talk about is our grading. I really love this program. I think it makes it easy, especially if you're using multiple choice, because it'll automatically grade it for you. But it also has a lot of great ways to give feedback. So the first thing is once you go in and you decide that you're ready to grade, this GIF is kind of long. You can go in and you can see each of the assignments that you've assigned to that class. Then you can also click onto that assignment and see how each student in your class is doing on that assignment. And then you can click on each student. You can see how many times they've watched a certain section of video. You can see how they did in each of the multiple choice. So like these are each of the multiple choice questions. You can give feedback individually to each student on each question. So like if they, you're like really close, you almost got it. It's up to you how you want to give feedback, but I think it has a great feature to be able to give a lot of feedback to your students. You can actually see this chunk right here is showing each time how many times the student has watched that section of video, which I think is really great feedback for you to kind of understand. And then the really cool thing is if you've connected Google Classroom, you can go ahead and export the grades straight to Google Classroom. And if you've connected Google Classroom to Synergy, I know that's a lot of steps, it'll actually drop your grades in all three. So the students can see their grade in EdPuzzle, and then they're also getting a grade in their assignment on Google Classroom, as well as their grade in Synergy, which I think is really powerful. It's easy, it's less clicks for you, but there is that way to give sort of individual feedback, but also quick response to help the students. So I did the educator course through EdPuzzle, and they have a bunch of videos you watch and you read different assignments, which I thought was pretty cool. And so these were some of the links. You do not have to read any of these to use EdPuzzle, but I thought they were really valuable of just different things to think about while you're using EdPuzzle. Again, up to you, just there for some light reading in all of our immense amount of time as we move forward. I did want to make 2 points that I think are very important. The first one is video length. So this is from Wistia, who makes video marketing software. But 2 minutes is the sweet spot. I think Jessica was saying in her Google thing that when she sees a video that's 9 minutes, her soul dies a little. And I laughed every time I saw that in the video. It's so true. So really thinking about your students and what makes sense and how long of a video they want to see. It doesn't have to be 2 minutes, but really keeping it short and sweet. You can always put more on there, but just sometimes it's hard to watch a really long video. And then the other piece to this that I really, really like, something that I use quite a bit with my students, is allowing redos. I really like this quote: allowing students to redo assignments and assessments is the best way to prepare them for adult life. I think especially right now where our home life and our school life have completely collided, and suddenly we're doing webinars in our home. I think especially now, the chance to redo assignments is going to be really powerful for your students. So you can kind of see in here, next to my name where I have, the student name, you can see that I've watched and the score. There's actually the 3 dots. It's like the snow person menu on its side. I guess it's melting. You can actually click reset progress, and then that way the student can go back in and try again. Obviously, it depends on your students. I have found that a lot of students, I just get an email like, oh, let me try again. So you can tell they're engaged, they're trying. And I think that that's really, more powerful than just saying, nope, you got 50%, that it is what it is. So I think it's great that it allows that opportunity to really quickly give that feedback, or give the students a chance to try again. And then, it's like, I feel like I practiced so much. I hope I didn't talk super, super fast. I know there's a lot in here. But I will say, if you need more help, please reach out. I know, Jessica, I think you're still doing the office hours from noon to 2 on Monday through Friday. There's office hours from 4 to 6 on Monday through Thursday. I'm in there. And this is really a great time where if you're like, I want to do this lesson and I just need a little help, I think this is a great opportunity to get support versus just on a phone call, which is challenging to say what you want or show what you need. We also have the webinar recordings. So all of the recordings of all the previous webinars are on there, and we're reviewing them after contract hours. You can get the QTA hours, whatever they're called now. I also found that Help Desk, EdPuzzle's Help Desk, they have a ton of resources. And if you have a question and you Google literally anything with EdPuzzle in it, their stuff pops up, and I found it really helpful. You can also just click through it. It has help desk for students, for teachers, and parents. And so I just found that really valuable. There's a lot of resources. They have a resource for everything. So if you need help, that's another great place to go. And then the other one, of course, is putting in a help desk ticket. I know there's an army of people right now who are supporting responding to those help desk tickets. So please reach out. They're really amazing and are ready to help. And then please stay connected with SFUSD and all that good stuff. And then I really wanted to make sure I leave a lot of time for questions. I think sometimes I think of all these things that you'll think of, and then I get a bunch of questions that were things I would have never thought of. So that's kind of my big spiel. And if people have questions, if you want to drop them in the chat, I'm happy to answer them. If people want me to review a part, I'm happy to answer them. I know that wasn't super long, but there's a lot of ins and outs of this program, and I just wanted to make it as sort of like streamlined as possible, but I'm happy to go back in and help. So if you don't have questions, that's fine. And if you do, I'd love to hear them. You reach your limit in the content. Sorry,
I think that just means that we've learned a lot and our brains are making
I know,
full.
I was like, is that an EdPuzzle question or an emotional statement? Because I feel both of those. Yeah. Are there any questions or anything I can review? Here is the slide deck if people need the slide deck.
Is it okay if I talk about how I use EdPuzzle as a teacher?
Yeah, that would be great.
So I taught high school Spanish, and I used EdPuzzle as a way to find what we call authentic resources, which are resources made by native speakers for native speakers. And we use authentic resources with all levels of language instruction. So even Spanish 1 students are looking at stuff made for native speakers. And so what I liked about EdPuzzle was that I could have like a commercial for a product that maybe used vocabulary we've been working on. And I could ask them questions, and it pauses the video automatically, like she was saying. And then if they didn't catch it, once they see what the question is, they could rewatch it and listen for the piece that I'm asking about. And so I really like the fact that it was almost like they got to kind of hear it first or see the video first, that piece, and then get asked the question and then be able to go back and like, oh, that's what I'm looking for now. Kind of like that strategy. But then I could also see just how many times they rewatched a segment. So if I saw that a lot of kids got a certain question wrong and a lot of kids rewatched multiple times, 6+ times, trying to figure out what the right answer was, then I know that question was too hard. And I could, kind of adjust and throw it out and make it better for the next time.
Definitely. Cool. Thank you. That is a great question. So no, I believe at this point we're only doing the free version, but it has been approved, which is exciting. So Jesse, just to clarify, it's saying that you have like too many different videos and lessons and that you're not able to add more. If you want to unmute. Yeah, that's the joys of the free version. Sorry. Are there any other questions? That's a great question. As far as kindergarteners, yes, I can definitely show how to add classes again. As far as kindergartners go, I think it might be challenging. I think it depends on sort of what family support they can get and things like that. But yeah, probably with the answers. I mean, you could have them watch a video, but I don't know if you're not necessarily having them answer the questions and things like that. I don't know how much value that will add. So let's go back to, just to confirm, it was classes. Yeah. So the classes, content, nope. In order to create a class, you are going to go in to log in. And then at the top right corner, you're going to see content, gradebook, and my classes. So it's right next to your picture. And you'll click add new class. There are a couple ways you can do that. You can do it manually, where it's going to give you a class code that's more similar to signing students up for like Google Classroom if you're not connecting with Synergy, or you can sign them in if they're already in Google Classroom. You can just sign them in through that. So you can connect with Google Classroom. And then, like I said, the next thing that it's going to ask is whether you have the parental consent or not, which depending on your age, you can, if your students are generally 7th grade and under, because it's 13, you would say yes, and you've gathered all those. But if your students are 7th or 8th grade and older, then you can click no because they're old enough and you don't need that. Then once you come in, if you decide to do Google Classroom, this would be the list of all of your Google Classrooms. And you would choose, I just have a few in here right now, some test ones practicing. Of course, I had a whole slide, a whole presentation, and they updated everything. Everything looks different now. So I had to go back in. You can choose your different Google Classrooms and then click import classes. And that is connecting classes. Thank you, Jessica, for that. So like thinking about, you can have 20 videos in your account. It's great to know. Or anything else I can support if you have questions about how to use it, different subjects, things like that. Put up the deck.
I think also, and I can't promise I've got this correct, but I've been reading EdPuzzle's help documentation about the storage limits. And I believe if you pay for a pro account, which is like $10 a month, and you add more videos, even if you cancel your subscription, you keep the ones you added, I believe. So if you wanted to invest $10 and put in a bunch of videos to have them, I think that you get to, I'm not totally sure. You might want to talk to somebody at EdPuzzle, but it's my understanding that you keep the videos that you put up, and once you revert back to free, you'll be able to add any more, obviously. So that's maybe another option for you.
Cool. I'm also wondering, I think probably if you just assign something, if it's not officially, I'm wondering if that would also, like if you assign it, but you didn't necessarily remix it, that you might be able to push content out, even if it's not like in your library. I don't promise that, but that would just be a thought that I have. Thanks, Karen. Awesome. Please reach out if you guys have any questions. I'm happy to help. I think some of it too is just kind of have to go in and do some clicks and see what the content is. It's really easy to go down a rabbit hole where you've watched 8 videos.
So it seems like that might be all the questions. Oh, there's one. Martha asked about where we can find the recording for the webinars. I will put the link in the chat to our webinar recordings page, and you'll find this webinar, you'll find this recording put there within 24 hours of it ending today.
Awesome, thank you.
But I think that's all the questions. So again, we'll encourage you to come to office hours. I can put the links in for office hours as well to join us for those. If you have any questions, feel free to go play with it and see kind of what happens, and then come ask us questions.
Yeah, I will be in office hours today, so I'm happy to help. And I know Jessica is also a good user, so she's easy to talk to and get help from.
Thanks for coming, everybody.